I'm William Turner. I'm the founder director of Foragvest.
Got it?
Greening, forest landscape restoration in Paraguay. Honor of having His Excellency Mr. Gennaro Pappalardo, the ambassador for Paraguay in London, who has accepted our invitation to introduce our panel session. So, Your Excellency, if you would please speak.
Thank you very much, William. It's a pleasure to see you again. You're a grand entrepreneur, a big friend of Paraguay too. We have a lot of things. We are dreamers. We are dreamers in the world. Thank you very much for all the authorities to organize this particular conference. And I have a problem because you mentioned only 3 minutes, but I wrote 30 minutes. So I had to cut to 11 minutes now. So probably I will pass a little bit the time. Since you allow me. Okay. I will say something about, I prepare about Paraguay in general, but at the end, I would like to say a few comments. Why Paraguay, no? This is that I was working for a few days, but Paraguay's geography has given one of the most biodiverse ecosystems in the world. With access to the large tropical forests and vast water resources, the country provides abundant resources for agriculture and livestock. With access to abundant, clean hydropower, Paraguay could be at the forefront of environmental policy in the region, promoting renewable energy, building energy, efficient technology, and improving in energy utilization in transport, among other areas. Why Paraguay can be the beacon state for forest management? Paraguay, my country, a South American country of 7 million inhabitants, the population of London, located between Argentina, Brazil, and Bolivia, landlocked country. We have 2 wonderful rivers. My country is home to much of the Gran Chaco forest, which is considered the second land-scale largest forest in South America, second only to jungles Amazon in Brazil. Paraguay participated in the REACH voluntary process under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change that encouraged developing countries to contribute to climate change mitigation efforts by reducing the greenhouse gas emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. The process also helped increase our GHG removal from the Earth's atmosphere through conservation, management, and forest expansion. UN agency has demonstrated the power to work and open the door for Paraguay to access important resources to implement its national strategy on forests for sustainable growth in achieving the objectives of mitigation, establishing the contribution determined at the level country nation toward the Paris Agreement. The result of these wide-ranging partnerships in producing shares. In 2019, Paraguay reported 26.7 carbon reduction, emission reduction, or a reduction of nearly 50% for the forestry sector. We hope that Paraguay can serve as a beacon state to push countries around the world to more positive action when it comes to managing your forests as a solution based on nature for climate change, while it helps drive a series of sustainable development goals related to the topic. The Paraguay economy has not stopped growing for at least 10 years. The southern country is one of the countries with the greatest productive potential in the region. While the past year was difficult for many countries against all odds, Paraguay seems to have emerged stable from the economic consequence that brought the COVID-19 pandemic and mandatory isolation. In the latest central bank report, Paraguay, of course, it is stated the economy in Paraguay grew 6.9% in the first semester of 2021, despite the pandemic. In Paraguay, there's a plenty of land available and suitable for forestry investment. Its political stability, growing economy, and legislation are beneficial for investment. Its climatic conditions are very suitable for the development of the forest plantation. In addition, strategic location and the formation leave its door open to the rest of the world to implement important forestry projects. If that were not enough, there's a great support from the government and financial entities with long-term financial tools for forestry projects. The high need for wood from forestry projects, the growth constant economy, and the incentive of the institution make Paraguay's ideal place for this type of investment and offer a return of up to 20% and equity in various stages of the plantation. A having favorable climatic conditions, a stable economy, and various institutional incentives investing in forestry projects, in Paraguay is a profitable and low risk option. The Paraguayan governments have adequate policies for investment in forestry. We have the decree is like a law. The law the name is 4056, 4056 is the name of the decree, was issued with the aim of promoting the use of sustainable resources from renewable bioenergetic sources of forest origin. Thus, has various financing options, favorable interest rates, and accessible requirements. You will stop depending on fluctuation values, and you will not take risk. This investment is situated in a fairly constant market and allows waiting for the ideal time to harvest. Unlike agriculture plantation, for example. In addition, it ensures long-term income and contributes to the preservation of the environment. There is a global trend with a sustainable approach that grows every year. Paraguay follows this trend as its environmental laws dictated that for the year 2025, 100% of the energy supply system of industries must come from sustainable sources, thus increasing the consumption of wood. To avoid the depletion of natural forests, there is an environmental, legislative, and economic pressure for primary users of wood products around the world. In Paraguay, according to the decree that I mentioned, that was issued on September 14, 2015, companies and industries must migrate to an energy supply system 100% sustainable with 2025 as a deadline. Currently, only 21% of the energy in the country's industry come from sustainable sources. This is in turn highlights future growth in the demand for reforested wood in this country. However, this same effect will occur in other countries. If you are one of the pioneer investors in say market, it's crucial to obtain faster return, as there is a much larger demand than the offer. Now, I will take 2-3 points in my 11 minutes I have. Let me please read it. This is something I received very good from Paraguay, the law 4890, the real right of forest surface. This is very important to say. It separates the plantation from the land. That is, one person can be the owner of the plantation and another person the land. This is a fantastic mix. The real right of forest surface is acquired by contract. In all cases, it will be implemented by public deed, and this must be registered in the corresponding office of the General Directorate of Public Registry of Paraguay. The property of which a real forest surface has been granted, we have a deduction of 50% of the real estate tax. Credit lines, natural or legal person residing in the national territory for present bioforestry projects. Up to 80% of the total cost of the investment project may be financed. Interest rate 9.75 on the finance amount. Terms up to 12 years for good production projects, and a term of up to 7 years for projects of the production of biomass. 66-month grace period without interest payment. One-time capital payment at the end of the project. And I cannot say with that the numbers that we have in Paraguay, this is very important too. We are #1 net exporter of clean energy in the world. #2, stevia, you know stevia, producer in the world, #2. #3, mate tea exporter in the world. The mate we consume every single day in Paraguayan. You enjoy William that. The 4 corn exporter in the world, the 6 soybean exporter in the world, and #8, unfortunately not the #1, meat exporter in the world. This is Paraguay, a small country, but when you go, you will get it. And besides to finish my thesis, I wanted to say a few words because I was thinking, why Paraguay? Besides what I mentioned about this particular item, the climate of the people, it's not the climate change, the climate of the people, open, friendly, easy access to the high level of the government, easy access to the private sector. There is a Paraguayan British Chamber in Association. All of them are friends of me. Open doors. When you need some of information and whatever, they are open for you. The arrival is soft in this particular time that is it's a nightmare to travel. But when you arrive in Paraguay, the migration is completely different than other countries. You easily cross the migration. And probably the people with the biggest smile is, what are you planning to do? Business. Welcome. 80% of the population in Paraguay is younger than 30 years old. And many of them speak English. Don't worry, you can go, you will have some help from the people. And more of them, the young generation that are studying in the United Kingdom, the Chibin or Becal, wonderful. This is the future of Paraguay. They are these kind of people, the young people, I remove the private sector that in the past only was the grandfather, 100 years, whatever, but now is the young generation, they do business. What else? When you take the taxi, you will feel the heat because Paraguay is very hot. If you arrive in January, it's not December, but the good news is the winter is short, 2 months, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 2 days. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this passionate welcome to Paraguay, which we at Foragvest Greening, we are converted, of course. We've been present in the country since 2017, and I can't thank you enough for this presentation. Thank you.
My pleasure, William, my pleasure.
Now, I will ask Chris Graf Grote to introduce himself as our panel speaker. We have 15 minutes, and so I will steer the conversations through so that each can answer, can lead on and have their moments. So Chris, please introduce yourself, and I will ask Annikka and Ed, and then we get on with the questions.
Thank you, William. I'm a tenant farmer from Norfolk in the UK, retired, and current chairman of the Nuffield Farming Scholarship Trust. My career started in the 70s growing vegetables to supply supermarkets in the UK like M&S and Sainsbury, as well as exporting to continental Europe and growing some joint venture crops in Spain. Following the war coming down in 1990, I spent several years as advisor on EU farm tasses programs in Central and Eastern Europe, as well as Asia and the Middle East, before setting up farming businesses alongside the UK in Eastern Germany to start with, then in Poland, Czech Republic, Serbia, and Romania. Acquisitions, land ownership, and tenure restructuring of agricultural enterprises, their management and development, coaching and mentoring are my field.
Thank you, Chris. One of the great farmers and not afraid of scale. Please, Annikka, can you, a brief introduction, please?
Yeah, hello. My name is Annikka Kauppinen. I'm CEO at Foragvest Greening. My background is in the asset management industry, most recently at BP's pension fund for 15 years, covering emerging markets. I'm now at FGL working to push forward strategy and start developing projects within this rapidly evolving sustainable impact investment space. Thank you, Your Excellency, for the invitation to Paraguay and sharing your enthusiasm. And thank you, Warren, Haley, and Ben for setting up this event, which focuses on the huge opportunity and growth that's going to happen in the space, both for the asset class as well as the development of projects and carbon markets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annikka. And now over to Ed Adams, our Technical Director, FGL. Ed, please. Can you hear me, Ed?
Yes, good morning, everybody, or afternoon as I'm speaking from Spain. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you introduce yourself, please?
You can, okay. So Edward Adams, original studies in, yes, that's what I'm doing. So my name is Edward Adams. I'm Technical Director for Foragvest Greening. My background is in agriculture and environmental science. I farmed around the world in the Antipodes and in Papua New Guinea and in Southern Africa. And I've returned recently to research in forestry. So my particular interest is in multiple land use and integrated land use on specifically rehabilitation of degraded forest and grassland for forest and landscape restoration.
Great. Thank you very much, Ed. So, Chris, can I start with you, please? You seem to have the keys out of your track record and experience, and also I know you're a man of vision. How do you see, the key to success in international agriculture at scale?
Well, the key to success is finding the right local partner in the country of operations. No matter what you do, you can't take land with you. So being embedded in the local community, its people, climate, soils, stage of development, and so on are essential. For this, you need a trustworthy, knowledgeable local partner at the outset.
Thank you very much. And Ed, this is obviously a key part of rolling out projects, forest landscape restoration and agroforestry in Paraguay. Can you please talk about the productive succession model and land use?
Yes, productive succession. Really, we're looking at addressing the concept of permanence for specifically for carbon sequestration, but also it applies to sustaining livelihoods and provision of ongoing ecosystem services. And to echo what Chris said, the integration with local partners and local stakeholders is absolutely crucial. What we're looking at in Paraguay is large-scale forest and landscape restoration. Paraguay holds some of the most significant remnants of the Atlantic forest, which is much degraded, but there's a lot of work being done to restore that forest. So in the concept of productive succession, we're looking at reforestation through stages which sustain livelihoods, particularly with cattle, agroforestry, and timber production, with the ultimate goal of restoring the Atlantic forest.
Great. So we have His Excellency the Ambassador talked about the availability of land in Paraguay. Chris has put his immediate point is the local partners, the people to do it, the local structure, and Ed has just talked about the productive succession of certain models. But of course, to make that a reality, you need to put it bluntly, the cash. In fact, you need capital. And on that, if I could invite Annikka to discuss on required capital, how to go about it, in the implementation of these large projects?
Well, quite a big and interesting topic, William. I'll try to be brief. Ultimately, we've seen the headlines. The UN Environmental Programme highlighted in a document recently that the capital required for bankable nature solutions require a tripling of investments by 2030, reaching a total investment of 8 trillion by 2050. Also saying that there is, at this point and at the scale that development is happening, a gap of about 4 trillion. So this shows the scale at which this capital necessity is and the gap. But as we know from recent news flow, especially on the back of COP26, we know that there is appetite for a systematic change. Larry Fink called it a tectonic reallocation of capital, which will come into the sector. The next phase of that is sourcing that capital and deploying it in projects. This would be an overhaul of the way we've looked at investments previously. There has been a lot of interest in ESG and a lot of really fantastic work done by institutional investors. But this is about a multi-stakeholder transition finance ecosystem where you're putting nature at the heart of economic decision-making. This requires collaboration across public sector, private sector finance, industry. The scale is huge, but the demand and excitement in the sector is also huge.
Thank you, Annikka. Deploying capital is one thing. So of course, there's the asset side, but there's also the operational side. And the operational side will be what will bring the cash flows, of course. Chris, please, on your experience, can you please give us some comments on this, on how to generate successful operationals in the agri sector?
Well, I think another key here is that you have to bring something really valuable to the party apart from capital. Technology that works on site, tried and tested practices, whatever. The know-how you provide must bring added value, and local visibility and recognition of this is very important. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I know from discussions that the training of local talent, if I may use that word, is very important too, potentials.
Absolutely, absolutely. It goes right the way through from apprentices, if you like, through to postgraduate.
So Ed's also been very active in implementing projects and is very, always emphasizes the crucial aspect of the people involved, and notably in the role of Permanence, and Permanence being the cornerstone of investing in landscape restoration forestry. Ed, can you give us a bit more on that, please? Notably on the mitigation of leakage.
Yes, certainly. So Permanence has become, yeah. Okay, so Permanence has become very much a hot topic with relevance to carbon sequestration. And for carbon offset credits, we're looking at a minimum of 25 years, but more commonly 100 years of anticipated lockdown of carbon. And during that time, we're looking for additionality. In other words, the activities that we're carrying out are increasing the carbon storage in that ecosystem. Now, when we consider a 100-year project, for those of us involved in forestry, that's not so unusual. But as a change in agroforestry and agriculture, that is significant. And for that to happen, we've got to be developing and designing and implementing projects which will have relevance way beyond their inception, but also crucially the ability to adapt to changing requirements, changing aspirations amongst stakeholders, and can indeed adapt to potential change in climate. So this is something we put a lot of thought to in FGL, how we can design landscape restoration projects that can be moved in one direction or another as criteria change during the 100 years minimum permanence requirement. We've also put a lot of thought to the legal and statutory framework of land tenure, project ownership. To speak back to Chris's point, capacity building, training of stakeholders, but also the buy-in of stakeholders. And an important part of this is having projects which allow local people to add value and retain value within their community, as opposed to a large-scale, you could take the example of a large-scale exotic tree planting project where, yes, there's local employment created, but as mechanization progresses, that employment will diminish. And the resources available to local people for subsistence. In Paraguay, notably, there's a strong demand for charcoal for domestic heating, as well as industrial applications. So looking at these timber products, non-timber forest products, which can retain relevance of that project for the local community.
Great. Thank you, Ed. And Anna, can I bring you in? One of the preoccupations for the financial community is how to evaluate nature-based solutions and also secure quality carbon credits.
Yes, so when it comes to quality carbon credits, again, going to what both Chris and Ed have said, it is necessary that we take a long-term view and we start to look at projects on a holistic basis. So you are bringing in multiple revenue streams, but also looking at rewards and returns that are both financial and non-financial. Going to carbon, this is very tricky on the back of what some view as an interesting framework, new framework for carbon that came out of COP, and some view with disappointment. Whichever way you look at it, a scaled up voluntary carbon market is going to facilitate this mobilization of capital from the global north to the global south, enabling these types of projects to happen and enabling returns to happen to these projects, both financial and non-financial.
Great, thank you very much. And of course, we talked about land tenure, which can take several forms. And I know, Chris, from your experience across the whole of Europe and Central Eastern Europe as included, this is a key part of success as well for both agriculture and, of course, forestry.
Yes, absolutely. Tenure is important. Land ownership must be looked at long term. The investment is usually inflation proof, but to bank on capital gain, as in recent years, this has happened particularly in Europe, but all across the world, is false economy. It may work for a time, but it destroys also the long-term operational capacity of the land. Too often rents are disproportionate to the earning capacity of the operator or tenant, which is forcing him to take shortcuts to the detriment of the soil.
So sorry, Chris, I'm going to cut in because we're going to be cut off soon because it's been very brief. I'm just going to very quickly do a screen share. And if, Chris, you could give us, you had a closing remark, which I know, which is spot on, and which is you had to build on the right people at the right time for the right purpose in the right place. And what we've heard from His Excellency is the availability of land and the government framework, legislation and support that can be, and the welcoming. And also, Annikka, if you could just give us a last line on this second green revolution, which quality carbons represents.
Yeah, so how do we incentivize movement into this asset class? We have to have the appropriate alignment of return and risk, and that's investors and projects, and enabling technology, enabling regulation, which are all rapidly coming into place, is going to help produce these returns. Again, these will be both financial and non-financial.
Right. Well, thank you all for listening in. Thank you all for attending. His Excellency, again, thank you. Deep gratitude for taking part in our panel. And we look forward to, we will put all our contact details in the chat, so please be in touch with us for Paraguay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, William.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Annikka, William, Chris, everything.
Bye.
I see you soon. See you soon.